Hello. Hello.
Hello. Lovely to see you.
Oh, you too. We so need a proper coffee morning catch up, don't we?
We do. I'm just finding my notes. I should have had my page ready. Right, yes, I have my notes here.
Have you been enjoying the sun? It's beautiful outside, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's absolutely really lovely. And I've got beautiful energy in my garden because I have a new wind spinner, Tree of Life wind spinner.
Oh,
I have my chimes and my water feature. So
all the elements in there.
Yes. Sorry, I'm in a swizzly chair here. So
So you know, the reason I wanted to have a chat with you today is because your awakening was, like many people's, quite rapid, and there were quite a lot of elements in there that quite frankly may have scared the best of people, really. You know, whether it's just like thing, or you know, hearing voices, or being able to channel and all that sort of thing. So just tell me a bit about what you do at the moment. Of course I know, but just for people listening, what is it that you do now? What's happening currently?
What I do now is I work with crystals, and I create jewelry, and I do that intuitively. And actually I've been doing that now for 2 years and realised that it's the intuitive pieces that I actually enjoy making the most, and I get a lot of joy from that. So if I know that somebody wants a piece, I can sort of tune in intuitively. I can sort of tune into their energy, and it just comes to me like, oh, I need some of this, I need this. And colours and everything I can just put together, so that's lovely. And also I have sort of stepped out of my comfort zone over the last.
You pushed out of your comfort zone?
Yes, over the last few weeks, and started an Instagram page which actually contains some of the messages that I receive through writing. And I never thought that I would ever be the sort of person that would do that, but I do feel that they're the sort of messages that people do need to hear. So stepping right out of my comfort zone and putting it actually into writing.
Absolutely. So what was the trigger point that made you awaken? Because I've known you for what, getting on for 20 years, and I was always the one. I was always there. I don't know, not weird, I don't like that word, but I was always the one in the group that, you know, somebody had a spirit, you know, you speak to either angels, speak to either, or anything metaphysical or anything like that. Whereas, you know, you're a little bit different.
I was normal.
It depends on your perception of normal, my dear.
I was distracted, I would say, and that's how I look on it now. For years and years, I always had a fascination, right from a child, had a fascination with science fiction, had a fascination with space, the stars, with aliens. Never thought much about it, really. Just, oh, you know, I love this and I love that, and I love to learn about this, that and the other. Always drawn to crystals as well, always. And didn't know why, and sort of wished a little bit like, oh gosh, I wish I could learn about these or whatever. I never really set my mind to doing anything with it. My turning point was my health. So I'd already had a major operation sort of 10 years prior, but in 2016 I had a full hysterectomy. It was a cancer scare, as in they thought that the tumour that they'd found could have been cancer. But it was, I think, the fact that, you know, they literally just removed everything because the surgeon thought that was the best. It was best to do it like that, and I just sort of went with it. And then afterwards I questioned you know, my choices and everything around that, and that sort of sent me into a spiral of anxiety. And I did go and see the doctor, and I had a prescription for beta blockers in my hand, and she'd said something to me as saying that it's best to take these because you can take them when you feel you need them. And I thought, And I just thought, well, if I'm in control of the tablets, then surely I'm in control in, you know, in total. And luckily have you as a friend. And we went to breakfast, and I had the prescription in my bag, and I think I was sort of pouring out all my woes to you, and you just said to me the words, well, you can ask the universe for what you want, and
always
and
been
your thoughts,
seeds.
yeah, and your thoughts create your reality. And literally from there, it was just something I just don't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Something just clicked, and
That's
yeah, and then I just started researching and, like, you know, looking at things on YouTube, and then we chat, and then you say, oh, have you seen so and so, and then I'd look at that, and then yeah, but then you just spiral, you just spin off into, you know, oh, this person that's really good, and yeah, you know, they're sort of talking about the same thing, but I don't resonate with that so much, but I do resonate with this, and yeah, it was amazing. Absolutely sort of loved my journey, and the meditation as well. Started meditating.
Did you start meditating at that point, Caroline, or did you meditate later on? Because that for me was, of course, I've always meditated, so that for me has been a really helpful tool, just as control and connecting. But did you start to meditate at that point?
Yes, I did. I did try to meditate after my surgery, which was sort of about 18 months prior to my actual awakening, but I couldn't settle to it. I don't even know why. I needed to have this anxiety, I think. I needed to get to a low point before I could come back up. But yeah, as soon as I had this sort of epiphany, yeah, meditation. But I started off with guided meditations and just short periods. And for me, a lot of it was my dreams as well, because things would come through to me, and I realised that if I'd gone to sleep asking a question, I'd wake up with words in my head. And I then had to tune in to remembering what those words were. So not letting my thoughts, as soon as I wake up, not letting my thoughts sort of just take over of what I had to do for the day or whatever, but sort of trying to just be still and focus in on what my dream had been, or what the words I'd heard, or numbers sometimes, or a picture. They would show me a picture of something. So yeah, for me, for a long time, it was my dreams and tapping into my dreams. So that was good as well.
And that's quite common, isn't it, when you have an awakening? And what about the numbers? Did you get the synchronicities with the numbers?
Yes, and in fact, I started looking for them straight away, and I would be so disappointed because I'd be like looking at my phone. I'd be like, oh my goodness. And I was lying in bed one morning, and I sort of like, it thoughts in my head, and I was like, why can't I see these numbers? And this voice just came straight in, you're trying too hard. And that was like, literally, this voice just comes straight in. And then after that, yeah, now I see, it's like you're having a conversation with somebody. It's like, there's another number, yeah, there's another number.
And so with my awakening, because mine was, you know, sort of, I was awake and aware from birth, and it's been normal for me, this process. But for you, you're around people, you know, loved ones, close ones, friends, family, that aren't awakened yet. So how do you cope with that? What is there anything that you do, anything that you don't do? I'm quite happy with that. So
yeah, I kept my space. You know, quite often I would sort of just be grateful that, you know, I did have time to myself in the house. But now we're in lockdown. I have had another view, and in fact this has worked so much better, and that I only give out what I want to receive back. And that has become, and I know that, I've known that through my whole journey, but this has become extremely clear to me over the last 3-4 weeks. So if I have any remarks that aren't things I want to hear, I literally just ignore them, and then sometimes it's quite difficult, but I do find love to send back. Oh, well, that's just their viewpoint.
Yeah,
That is just their
and not take
point.
it personally. I think
Yeah,
that
don't take it personally.
initially, when we have such strong views and such strong beliefs in things, actually it's quite a skill to think, you know what, that's your version of your reality, and to accept that and to think that's absolutely fine. But it just feels a little bit, well, it's quite low frequency when somebody comes at you. But for me, I always think, oh, where's my frequency at? Because if somebody's coming at me with low frequency, then I've manifested that. So from my perspective, I'm thinking, right, okay, this is actually my problem. I need to sort my frequency out, get it up, and then come back with, you know, high frequency feelings, emotions, and that sort of thing.
Exactly. And I've read something this morning that sort of backed that up in the book that came to me quite early on in my journey, which was called The Voice of Isis.
Oh, yeah.
The goddess Isis, who that came to me quite early on, and I did struggle a little bit sometimes early on in my journey to read it because it's quite deep. But this morning I was drawn to reading a couple of chapters, and there was a paragraph in, and it said that when you are judging and when you are criticizing other people, so even if someone's judging you and then you're judging them for judging you, you are sitting in that sort of arena of criticism. So that is you have brought yourself into that level and into that critical sort of way of thinking, and so it's much better to just let it go, just let it ride, and then you stay in your own frequency.
Yeah, perfect. And you've had a couple of QHHT sessions with me. And so just tell us a little bit about those. I'm trying to think back now to the first one.
Oh my gosh.
Was it where the Council of 12 came through? Because we didn't know who we were speaking with at first, did we?
No, that was the third, actually, because I've had four sessions or three sessions with you, I think. So the first one, we just went back to a past life. And I realised that I needed to do some work around the heart chakra. The second one, I came through that I was a light being and helping the trees on the planet. And that there were more of us there. There was more light beings there in the group. We were all doing a similar role, so that came through quite strongly on that QHHT. But it was the last one where I was aware that the light beings might come through again, and I was quite anxious actually going into that QHHT session, so that I could sort of, because I could feel that they were there and I was trying to let them in, I was more focused on where they were and how they felt, and I think I said at the time, I want to say there's 12, and didn't really know the significance of that until after the QHHT session, when we both did a little bit of research around it.
Figured it out. Yeah, that's incredible. Who are the Council of 12? Have you done much research around them? I know that my guides, the Council of 9, in fairness, I haven't done a great deal of research around them. They just are, you know, they are these phenomenal beings that come through with messages.
I think that in general, they don't like to be compartmentalized as such, because as humans, we like to say, oh, this fits into this group and this fits into this group, don't we? Because it makes us feel safe, I think. But they just say they're just light beings, and that, you know, when we say Council of 12, I think they're very evolved. They have told me that they're very, very evolved, with profound knowledge, but they just want to help so much. They are there just to help us. They're not so interested in what level necessarily they're at. They're just interested in being able to help us, and every time somebody awakens, they feel so much joy. And that's what comes through for me.
So when you first connected, how is it that you connect with them? How do you How do you do that? What's the process?
Well, what happened for me was I was meditating, and I was meditating most days, and so for about 18 months I was meditating most days. Started off with guided meditations, moved on to just listening to music. If you listen to sort of like a Reiki music which doesn't attach emotion to it, so that type of thing. So then I had this one day where I was completely on my own in the house, and I thought I was going to treat myself to a longer meditation, and I think I did about a 40-minute meditation, and I got lifted up in this meditation to somewhere absolutely amazing. It was like a pale aqua blue. It was just full of light. I felt so safe and loved, and it just felt wonderful. I didn't want to come back. That was how lovely it felt. And then the following day I was doing yoga in the morning, and when I'm doing yoga I can let my mind drift a little bit, and things were coming into my mind, and I just kept hearing this voice: write it down, write it down, write it down. And I had to stop my yoga and get up and sit down at my desk with a journal. Now, I'm the sort of person who I like to be neat. I have very neat writing. I'm very good at grammar. I love everything to be tidy and neat. And if you can see my journals since I've been channeling, they are all over the place. I start at the back of the book, I start at the front of the book. I always put the date on. That's the one thing I do. But literally this message came through, and I have done a blog about that. I have a website, and I've put the how I came to channeling is in my blog.
Yeah, we'll put that
yeah, it contains the first message that I received. So I was absolutely astounded, and all I can say is that when I can't even say, I think I have to be in a good place. I have to be at the right frequency for me, and relaxed, and feeling very open, and not trying to control anything. So in general, I'll just start writing, and then I just let whatever comes into my head will just flow. And then sometimes it's very intense, and I find that my writing is all over the place, and it's like, oh gosh, I've got to get this down quickly. Other times it's slower. Sometimes it's images I see in my head, or they'll try and give me an image sometimes, and that's very difficult to write around, because to get the right feeling into words is quite difficult. Sometimes it is actually words, because I've quite often the other part of my brain is going, really? It really is that? I mean, but nothing else will come through until I've written those words down. So I write the words, and but I do know that one thing that I do notice is that my head is normally like tilted to the left.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just the thing for me, or but that's how it generally works for me. Yeah.
Almost, that way. And of course that was sort of moving on from when you had your awakening, and then had the sessions, and then that's
right. Yeah.
Forward, didn't it? Yeah. Sort of into subconscious. That's incredible. The services that you offer. So I know you have this amazing blog that you've got on there, and we'll give we'll put a link to that down below. Where else can people find you? I'm
on Instagram, Caroline Lowings Channels. That's my Instagram for my channeling. So the messages that I've are short enough to go on there, because that is quite intense to so what I'm going to do is, in my website I have a link where you can drop your email in, and every week I'm going to be sending out messages that I've received from the light beings, so that people can sort of stay in touch that way if that's what they want to do. Also in my website, I think in general in my blog, if I think something is really needed for the planet or for humanity, I will put that in a blog post. It's been difficult for me to sort of step into thinking, going from what I perceived as normal before to, you know, becoming a channeler and somebody that is able to, you know, give out information. Yeah. But for me, my feeling is I am just a vessel. So although when you channel, you do have filters in your brain. So when I see a picture or an image, that image for me will mean something, and although it may mean something similar to somebody else, if they'd have received that same picture, then they may have interpreted it slightly differently. So you know, I think everybody needs to understand that when they are listening to channeling and things like that. You know, generally you can sort of get the gist, and I try and just write the message literally as it comes through. I don't, you know, put my interpretation on it as such from my intellect. I just write it down.
Yeah, that's incredible. Is there any information that's been coming through, you know, just about the current situation or how to deal with things? I know you're receiving messages daily. Is there anything that you think might be useful? Well, of course, it's all very useful, but
yes. Basically, what they are saying to us is that we need to sit in a space of love. So with regards to the actual disease itself, or the virus itself, if your immune system is high, then it's not really going to touch you. So, and your immune system is linked to your frequency. So a lot of it is keeping your frequency as high as you possibly can. And one way of doing that, or the best way of doing that, is to sit in love. So when people learn, so when you awaken, you learn that self-love is very, very important. And when you have love for yourself, literally you are protecting your own cells. So the more love that you give out to other people, the more protected your cells are health-wise, you know, to keeping them in the right state. So in that way you're protecting your health. That's the sort of the main message that I've had through about what's happening at the moment. The other thing they did say was that the isolation was more likely to be detrimental than it was to be helpful, because people naturally want to gravitate towards each other, and it's what keeps you happy. So staying connected with all your loved ones is really vital if you want them to stay healthy, and in the best ways that we know, obviously at the moment, is like we are doing today, is using Zoom. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, perfect. And do you have any personal advice perhaps for people who might just be starting to awaken? Do you remember how that felt when we were in that, you know, in that restaurant about to eat breakfast?
Yes. Be inquisitive about everything. So, and don't ignore anything that your brain is telling you, so, or your heart is telling you, really. So when you are feeling something, or you have an inkling that you're going, you know, oh, I need to look at this or whatever, just go with it. Literally just go with the flow. You will find what it is that you are here for by doing that, by just following what you feel that you love and like, and you know, going further and asking questions around it and doing your own research and finding people. Then you will find people that are on the same sort of level as you, the same frequency as you.
Suddenly you turn around, and I remember being on a flight once, and literally I think there was 3 of us in a row, so my husband here, me, and a chap just randomly sat next to me. Of all the people to sit next to, he started talking about esoteric and do you believe in this and believe in that, and I just looked up and thought, I don't believe this. Well, I do, because like you say, you know, you're putting a frequency out and the universe You get that frequency back. It was one of the best flights I've ever had.
Definitely. And the other thing, and this is what the guides tell me as well, is that you must be open-minded, like have an open heart and an open mind. And when you are open-minded, then when things come to you, you're less likely to dismiss it. And it's having that belief and that sort of, just having an open mind, just accepting things for, you know, how it is. This is how it is. I mean, I could easily have like said at the time when this message came out, oh gosh, well, that's not really meant for me, or you know, that's going to cause me problems, so I'm just going to leave that. I'm not going to do that anymore, you know. But I didn't. It's staying open-minded, and it's available to everybody. They want me to tell everybody that it is available to every single person, and every single person has like a key inside them, that there'll be something that will like turn the key, and then they will suddenly awaken. They'll suddenly know what it's all about, and and it will start them on their journey, and they'll realize that what they've already been through has all been leading up to this point. But and the ones who are awake already, we are here to guide, and we cannot push. We can only guide. We can only teach by example of how we are living our own lives, and drawing people in, and then, you know, then it's like a help. It's a help to them, but without us pushing them in a certain direction.
They're having to learn and develop and evolve themselves, aren't they?
But it's definitely available to every single person. If everybody wanted to be able to sit and write or whatever, if that's their, you know, predilection, if that's what they want to do, then you know, they are able to do that. But quite often it will come through as music, or you know, they might write songs, you know, beautiful songs around it. It can be anything. It can be art. So for everybody it will be slightly different, but it is definitely available to every single person.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Really
you're so welcome. It's so lovely to see you.
And if anybody wants to contact you, is it okay? We'll put your email address, we'll put all your details below anyway.
Yes, lovely.
That'd be great. Oh, lovely.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Yvette. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.